Good morning, Alana and Michael. Well, Michael, those dragon fruit look really good, and they're very popular dragon fruit. I've tried to grow them down here but haven't had any fruit successfully. Alana, Jennifer was saying the other day she always follows your post, and I do too. But it'd be nice if we could sit down at a dinner table and have a chat or a barbecue, etc. It's not possible, which is a pity. It really annoys me that there's so many pricks out there now in the patriot movements. We were always fighting for freedom of speech, and they don't care about freedom of speech. They only care about what they got to say, and they're just outright rude. That wouldn't have happened 2013, probably 4 years ago. It wasn't like that. We listened to each other and didn't always agree, but made informed decisions from listening to people. One of the things I find is that I read everything, but I'm not going to like it. But I don't agree with everything, but I get really good ideas that send me in other directions or send me off to search and find out more about that information. I get a lot of people through Messenger that tell me they like my post and other posts, but they don't press like and they don't share it because they can't. They're in the workplace, they're friends in the workplace, they've got codes of conduct and they're not allowed to show this information on their Facebook, so they don't share or like a lot of things even if they're in agreement. The other thing, many have had trouble with partners and family and friends that just are sick of listening or reading political posts. But it doesn't mean people are not, just because they're not liking, not sharing, it doesn't mean they're not listening. You are an influencer, and one of the things that I find about your personality, even though sometimes you can be abrupt, but you just say how it is, what you like, what you don't like. I was thinking that you should have your own YouTube channel, maybe base it around your family life, and Friday nights just post Friday nights on the YouTube, the meal you're making and things like that. And Michael probably on the next Friday night can say how good the meal was and that, and bring people a bit more into your life. I've creating a Futurist Forum, and I'm hoping you and Michael will be on it. There won't be too many people on this forum, but the idea of the forum is to work out what we need to focus on. At the moment we're using scattergun techniques where we just got so much things out there that's happening, but we're not really influencing anything. A good example would be halal. When I talk to politicians and I talk to our strategic person who's a politician, works for politicians, halal is here to stay. It's not going to go away. The government likes it, the businesses like it, the Muslims definitely like it. So the only thing they tell me that we can really do is push, if we could get the numbers, that it's got to be labelled and that it's illegal to sell halal food unlabelled. And then it would be up to the people. But when I talk to people and where have you paid your halal tax today, the majority of people don't even know what halal is, and when you tell them, they're surprised it's even in Australia. We live in a Facebook bubble or a social media bubble. Those people in the real world don't really know much about a lot of these political things, and political Islam is something they're especially not aware of. So I'm hoping you'll join that forum. COVID-19 vaccine. In a pandemic, they can force everyone to. The government said they're not going to. However, again, my strategic person who works for the government was telling me that the government's looking at making it that every government employee and contractor to the government employees will have to be vaccinated. So that means your local council, your state government organisations and federal. Plus that will mean the hospitals and things like that. They're also looking at making it compulsory that if you work in the health industry, so aged care, if you work in a private hospital, even the secretary at the front, they're looking at making that compulsory. Transport, yeah, it's not necessarily the government, but the airlines are not going to take people who aren't vaccinated, and that includes people from overseas, and that also interstate. My friends at Transport tell me that buses, interstate buses, you won't be able to get on one of them without being vaccinated, and the trains as well, interstate trains. Australia Day, happy Harry, he's been doing a lot with that, but it probably won't go to ahead this year as such. They've chosen Chinese New Year is more important than Australia Day. We've got the t-shirts, people are buying them, and the idea of those t-shirts was people get them, wear them all the time as a reminder. It wasn't necessarily for Australia Day itself. People have their own shirts they wear on Australia Day, but they are going well. One of the things that Labor in the States, it looks like Trump is thinking of forming his own political party, which means there'll be, when people go to vote, there'll be 3 political parties, not just Republican and Democrats. This would be very interesting. In Australia, we've got real problems with people not understanding about the political parties. And one of the big things is Labor people don't understand that Labor is there to promote their Fabian policies, which means they will, by small steps, change to a socialist society. Sorry, just got to blow my nose. As my mum would have said when I was younger, blow it before you do something. So we've got to really attack Labor. Our job is really to hit Labor so hard that they're not even a second party in Australia. We need to be talking to people in the street about Fabian society. When we need to know about the Fabians inside out, who the Fabians were, like Julie Gillard and Bob Hawke and heaps of other Labor people. So our objective is to push about Fabian society and socialism, and our main job should be to wipe Labor out. Communist Party, we've got to remind people that it's the Communist Party that we're against, not the people. 2 different things. We've got a choice with the food. We should not be buying any Chinese food, like Mars Bar, make your own. Any food, why would we bother buying from China when we can get it in Australia? For example, honey, you just go down to your local markets. I'm lucky here, my neighbour sells honey, beautiful honey, and he also sells us the eggs, the chooks that are at the back of our place. It's difficult when it comes to non-food products. For example, I understand that over 80% of medicine in the States comes from China, some from Brazil and that, but the rest virtually from India, and 95% of those medicines from India, the ingredients come from China. So we can't risk our lives on principles. Also, your motorcycle parts, your car parts, they all come from China. And your toasters and things like that. We can't do anything like that. If the toaster breaks down, we just got to buy a toaster. And so what we've got to make sure is, let's just not eat any food that comes from overseas, and especially China. Child abuse. We've done a fair bit about female genital mutilation, and as you realise, February the 6th is International Zero Day of Female Genital Mutilation, and I've found when we wear our FGM shirts, and to give you an example, I went into Bunnings and then the next day I wore it again. I just wear it into the shops or where I'm going, and then I take it and put another shirt on when I get home. And this young girl come over to me and she said, "What's female genital mutilation? Is that piercing your genitals?" And when she said, "We were talking in the lunchroom yesterday, we saw you wearing it, but none of us knew what it was." And I explained to her about child brides, and none of them had ever heard of female genital mutilation, let alone it was happening in Australia, and child brides knew nothing about it. So in our bubble, we know all about it, which is a social media bubble, but we've got to get it out into the real world. So what we're doing is we're changing our focus from female genital mutilation on that day to child abuse, because it is child abuse. There's no other word for it. Child brides, female genital mutilation, child abuse. And we can get a lot of publicity, but the Futurist Futurist Forum will look at that and see what's the best way of doing it. One of the things the Futurist Forum, the first thing we'll be doing is creating a survey. My strategists and other people in government have suggested that the politicians don't really take much notice of forums, but if you make the of surveys, if you make the survey talking about are you willing to not vote for someone whose policy is to allow the sale of Australia infrastructure land, then those types of things, if they see the numbers very high, that concerns them, because their main aim is to look after themselves, but the second aim is to stay looking after themselves. So that's something that's important for us, is the survey. Multimedia bubble. A lot of people aren't on social media. A lot of people I talk to, they don't have social media. Larry, who's on this side, he doesn't have internet. A lot of people don't have internet, and a lot of people are not interested in social media. So we've got to have a look at the bubble, but we've got to get outside of the social media bubble and influence people there. And the t-shirts definitely do that. Gives you, like mine that says not voting for Labor, Greens, Liberals or Nationals. People say, "Who are you voting for?" It gives you a chance to talk to them why. It's very important that we start developing electorate support hubs. And I feel that the way to do that, for example, you're in Cairns, you've got Dale Marshall, yourself and Gary Stevens. It's good to have coffee now and again with people who are like-minded. You may not have a lot in common, but you do have that in common, your interest in the future of Australia. Facebook, Instagram versus the others. One of the things I've been advised is best to stay with Facebook, Instagram, because two things like Parler and that, they're owned by China. You're just giving your information to China. And the Facebook and Instagram, if you put anything that defames people or promotes hate, then they're going to take your Facebook and remove the postage. So it's kind of protecting you a bit. But if you do that on Parler or something else, and a person sees it, then you can lose whatever you got, because you can go to court just like Cat Claxon, and you lose a lot of money. It costs a lot of money for lawyers. So you can go to these other ones that are owned and anyone else can get onto. However, Facebook and Instagram protects you. I noticed that Google and Apple and that, they're stopping having any apps that hate speech and defamation speech isn't protected on those social media. We need to get our own people in Parliament, and the Futurist Forum will discuss that. We've got, like Elle, I don't know if you know, she does a lot for child abuse when it comes to female genital mutilation, and Elizabeth Powell, they ran years ago for One Nation. But people keep thinking on Facebook that One Nation's going to do well, and they're doing well, but then when you talk to people in the street, it's completely different. Going back to the vaccine, I've had heaps of people say, oh, I'm not having the vaccine. Well, I'm not, because my memory's shit as it is, and I don't like the aluminium going into my brain. But when people send me messages, and I get about 30 a day, that's why I don't always get to reply to people for a while, and they tell me that they definitely get it. They want to see their grandkids. I've got people who are travelling twice a year, 3 times a year. They go on cruises. They're going to get it because they want to go back to cruising. People want to go overseas, and there's heaps of people I talk to in the real world, and people that come through on Messenger that are patriots, and they're definitely going to be in line for it. So don't let the social media bubble make us think that's the norm, because it's not the norm. In fact, the government, I was reading about a survey the other day done by the university, and over 80% of Australians will just put their hands up immediately. So that's why the government's saying they're not going to make it compulsory. But they can change their mind, and if the pandemic changes, they can force everyone. They can't grab you and put it in you. They probably just lock you up. But we need to highlight ministers' deficiencies to our electorate, and we need to highlight policy deficiencies to our electorate and party deficiencies. We've really got to push hard at Labor. Anytime they fuck up, we make sure everyone knows. In fact, we're lucky in Victoria, but the Victorians that are very rude to me, they're all for him. They just love Comrade Dan the Chinaman. Dan lied. People died. We need to encourage self-reliancy, self-sufficiency. We don't know what's going to happen, especially since America may not be there to protect us. They'll become more on China's side now that Biden's taking the chair. So it is a very fearful thing. So people got to be prepared. I was watching a video, and other people watched the same video when we were talking at work, and it said you should always have $600 cash in your home, in your safe, because if the banks go out for a week, you're going to be stuffed. If someone attacks the bank systems or the power goes down, and fuel, we only have a small amount of fuel for a few weeks. I'm not sure how many weeks. It might be 6 weeks in advance in Australia. People in this video, they were saying you should always have a couple of drums of fuel like you do for your lawnmower in the garage, not near your house or anything, so that if the petrol pumps can't, it may be electricity, or if they don't have any fuel, then you still have fuel for emergencies. And if the power does go out, the shops will have trouble opening the doors. They can't use the FPOS machines and things like that. So it's very easy. We're very vulnerable as a society. I love it up here. We just grow our own veggies and everything. Not everyone can do that. And we only eat meat now when we go into town, which is 15 kilometres away, 15 minutes. We eat more veggies because we're growing them, costs nothing. The Great Reset, that is scary shit. That's really scary. Pauline Hanson's against it, but all the other politicians think it's got great ideas. So you own nothing, and you will have a happier life. You'll rent everything. Some of it sounds so good. For example, they're saying that I actually own all my properties and that, but if you've got debt, the government will buy the debt, take your land and your house, and you'll rent it back. And if you've got debt on the car, they'll take your car and give you money to pay that, and you just rent the vehicle. A lot of desperate people will probably, to get out of debt, and that's how they're looking at it, if they can clear all your debt and own your land, your car and everything, then you'll be happy, they think. But the Great Reset, we need to keep an eye on that. From the Futurist Forum, we'll have Focus On, which will be about just focusing on what we're going to focus on, and talk to other groups to focus on. Something I picked up from you, it's important that we be global non-compliant. Global non-compliance, it was from one of your posts, and I've read it a number of times, put it up again today, and everything on that is perfect, and it's worth going back and reading it again. It's also worth getting the book about the Great Reset and read what they wanted to do about that. I hope I haven't bored you and Michael too much. It'd be nice to meet one day, but I'm not going to get the jab to fly to Cairns, because they are looking at regional as well. So if someone wants to come down to Sydney to go to a night out, then if you're flying, it's a regional flight, so they're looking at you won't be able to get on the plane unless you've had the vaccine. Anyway, I hope this year's going to be better for you. Can't be much better for your plants, for those dragon fruit. It's health is the important things to us, and the other very important thing is that we do enjoy life and that we leave something here for our future generations, that they know their grandparents and parents fought for. And it's one step at a time. It's about focusing. It's about enjoying life, meeting people, and doing more in our communities. Thanks again.